Have you ever just sat in silence and watched someone you love slowly fade? Not just the way they walk a little slower, or how they tell the same story again and again. I mean really watched, noticed the quiet changes that no one talks about. Like the way the light in their eyes seems to dim just a little more each day. Maybe it's your father, the man who could fix anything with his bare hands, now struggling to button his shirt. Or your mother, once full of laughter, always humming in the kitchen, now sitting in silence, staring out the window as if waiting for someone who isn't coming back. Have you ever caught yourself wondering, when did this happen? Why didn't I see it sooner? Because aging doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in quietly. A forgotten name, a missed appointment, a house that grows too quiet. And the people we love most, the ones who once held us when we cried or guided us when we were lost, they begin to slip away, slowly, silently, even while they're still right in front of us. The truth is, after 80, something shifts, not just in the body, but in the heart, the mind, the spirit. And no one really warns you. No one prepares you for how deeply it hurts to watch someone you love become a shadow of who they once were. All while they smile and say, "I'm fine." But you know it's not fine. You feel it, deep down, that something's different. That's why you're here. Because maybe what you're sensing is one of the 5 difficult truths about growing older after 80. Truths most people ignore until it's too late. And you deserve to know them. Not just to understand what's happening, but to truly be there. To support your loved ones in the ways that matter, with presence, with peace, with dignity, because real love is in the noticing, in the quiet moments that most people overlook. So in this video, we're going to explore 5 powerful, unspoken realities. The things no one says out loud, but that every aging parent, grandparent, or senior feels in their bones. By the end, you won't just understand the changes, you'll know how to respond, with compassion, wisdom, and love. Before we begin, do one simple thing. Comment, "I'm here," if you're ready to learn the truths no one else will say. And don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Insight, where we have the conversations that truly matter. Let's get into it. At truth number 1, the disappearing social circle. Let me tell you about Mr. Thomas. He was 85 sharp as ever, still remembered. Every move from the chessboard for years. He hosted a weekly chess night at the community center. Nothing fancy. Just a few close friends, a pot of tea and laughter that filled the room. It was his routine, his joy, his connection to the world outside his home. But one day it stopped. Not all at once, of course. First, one friend didn't show. Then another one moved in with his daughter across the country. Another got sick. And slowly Mr. Thomas found himself sitting alone at that chess table, waiting, hoping, until, eventually, the board stayed in the closet, amused, forgotten. He didn't stop playing because he lost interest. He stopped because his circle, the people who knew his stories, who remembered who he was, before the wrinkles and the walker began to vanish, and no one talks about what that does to the soul. You see, after 80 social circles don't just shrink, they evaporate one funeral at a time, one goodbye after another. And what's left behind is silence. Now, loneliness at that age isn't just an emotional ache, it becomes a health risk. Studies have shown that chronic loneliness increases the risk of heart disease, memory decline, even early death. It weakens the immune system, disrupts sleep, and raises stress levels. The body can survive on less food, but not on less connection. But here's the tricky part. Family members often say, "Well, we visit on Sundays," or "We call every few days." And while those gestures mean a lot, they're not the same as having someone your own age who remembers the music you danced to, or the war you lived through, or what it meant to buy your first black and white TV. It's not just about company, it's about being understood, being around people who get you without explanation. And that's what disappears first, the comfort of familiarity. So what can we do? Reconnect them, not just to people but to purpose. Encourage community programs that cater to their interests. Not just bingo games, reintroduce them to old friends through phone calls or video chats. Yes, even if you have to help dial the number. Ask a neighbor to drop in once a week, or start a mini book club over tea. Help them feel part of something again, because when someone feels seen, they feel alive. And this is the first truth, but it's only the beginning. Because sometimes even when they're surrounded by others, they still feel lost. And that brings us to the next truth, one that's often mistaken for just getting older, but in reality it's something far deeper. Truth. Number 2. The emotional weight of losing purpose. Let me tell you about Linda. For over 40 years, she ran a small sewing business. From her living room, clients would come and go, fabric samples everywhere. The gentle hum of her old machine singing through the house. She stitched dresses for weddings, uniforms for school children, curtains for new mothers, nurseries. Her hands were always busy, her mind always sharp. But after she turned 82, her fingers started to ache. Her eyesight dimmed. She closed her little shop and told her customers, "I'm done now. No big announcement, no farewell party, Jew." In silence. And soon after, she found herself sitting by the window every day, watching cars pass, kids running by after school, shopkeepers opening their stalls, but never stepping outside, never saying a word. Just watching, as though the world had moved on without her. And maybe it had, because here's the truth. Nobody talks about when you lose your routine, your rhythm, your reason to get out of bed in the morning. You begin to lose a part of yourself. You see, purpose isn't something reserved for the young or the ambitious. It doesn't belong only to people with careers or big dreams. Purpose is the quiet belief that your presence still matters, that your actions, however small, still mean something. But after 80, when the kids are grown, the job is gone, and the invitations slow down. Many seniors begin to wonder, what am I still here for? And here's where it gets hard. From the outside, it might just look like they're resting. They're quiet. They nap more. They don't ask for much. And we say things like, they've earned their rest, or they're just slowing down. But there's a difference between rest and resignation. One heals the other. Hollows, because when someone stops feeling useful, they start feeling invisible. And invisibility for the elderly can be a slow, silent kind of grief. So what can we do? It doesn't have to be grand. Give them little roles, meaningful ones. Let them fold the laundry, ask for their help. Preparing dinner, invite them to share stories with the grandkids. Let them teach a craft, a prayer, a recipe, a song. Let them teach a craft, a prayer, a recipe, a song. Let them be your advisor, your storyteller, your steady hand. Because purpose doesn't retire. It simply needs a new way to show up. Help them feel needed again, not just loved, but useful in whatever way they can still give. And you'll see the difference, not just in their face, but in their spirit. But purpose isn't the only thing that disappears quietly. There's another change, one that creeps in even more subtly, and sometimes dangerously without anyone noticing. Truth number 3. Sudden change in sleeping habits. Now let me share something about Grandpa Joe. He was always an early riser, the type who would make tea before the sun came up and sit on the porch, listening to the birds. It was his little ritual, his peaceful way to greet the day. But one month something changed. He started sleeping through breakfast, waking only around noon. Then he'd doze off again mid-afternoon and stay wide awake until 3 or 4 in the morning. At first, the family shrugged it off. He's just bored. He doesn't have much to do anymore. That's what old people do, right? But it didn't stop. He grew more irritable during the day, confused in the evenings, restless at night. The sparkle in his morning conversations faded. His appetite dropped, his energy dipped even lower than usual, and no one could quite explain why. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Sleep isn't just rest, it's repair, it's memory, it's balance. And when someone over 80 starts sleeping too much during the day, or can't stay asleep at night, It's not just old age. Yes, sleep cycles naturally shift as we get older. The body produces less melatonin. Light sleep becomes more common. That's normal, but persistent sleep disturbances, they can be signs of something deeper: depression, early dementia, chronic pain, or even side effects from medication and left unaddressed. They begin to affect everything else: mood, focus, appetite, even mobility. But because it seems harmless on the surface, families tend to overlook it. They say, "Let him rest if he wants to, or she's earned the right to nap all day." But that kind of irregular rest can actually make things worse. Too much daytime sleep means less nighttime sleep, which leads to fatigue, confusion, and a vicious cycle of discomfort and disengagement. So what can we do first? Create a rhythm. Try to keep the same wake-up and bedtime every day. Open the curtains wide in the morning. Natural light helps reset the body's internal clock. Encourage short, gentle walks in the early afternoon. Nothing too intense, just enough to remind the body it's daytime. Keep the evenings quiet, dim and free from stimulation, like loud TVs or late-night snacks. And if sleep issues persist, don't guess. Talk to their doctor. Some medications interfere with sleep. Others may be needed to help regulate it. Remember, poor sleep isn't just about being tired. It's about the mind, the mood, the memory. And when those begin to suffer, the next change isn't far behind. Because sometimes sleep is only the first thing they start losing, the next is far more heartbreaking. What happens when they begin to forget who they are? Truth number 4. Identity. Loss through cognitive decline. Let's talk about Auntie Carol. She's always been full of life. The kind of woman who dressed to the nines just to visit the post office. She had a memory like a vault. Birthdays, old addresses, what you wore 5 years ago at your cousin's wedding. She remembered it all. But recently, little things started happening. She began misplacing her purse. At first it was harmless, left on the couch tucked behind a pillow. But then her daughter found it in the freezer, and when asked, Auntie Carol just chuckled. Ah, old age. Everyone laughed with her because that's what families do. We laugh it off. But underneath that laugh was something else, a quiet fear, a slow unraveling, because you see, memory slips happen. We all forget names or where we left the remote. That's normal, but when those slips become regular, when confusion sets in, when once familiar routines start to feel foreign, that's not just aging. That could be cognitive decline, early dementia, Alzheimer's, a slow fading of the self. And here's the painful truth. When someone starts to lose their memory, they aren't just forgetting names. They're losing parts of their identity. Imagine not remembering how to get to your own kitchen, or looking at your grandchild and struggling to find their name. It's terrifying, disorienting, and yet so often people brush it off. They say she's just tired, it's normal for her age. But it's not always normal, and pretending it is can delay care, can rob someone of precious time, where early support might still make a difference. So what can you do? Start small. Routine is everything. Create daily patterns. Same meal times, same places for belongings. Keep a visible calendar with important dates. Label things around the house, drawers, light switches, rooms, so the environment becomes a gentle guide, not a confusing maze. Engage their mind, word games, old stories, puzzles, music from their youth. And don't be afraid to bring it up with their doctor. Early assessment doesn't mean the end, it means options. It means planning, preserving dignity, and offering the best quality of life possible. And remember, when someone forgets, it's not because they don't care. They're not pulling away. They're trying to hold on. They need patience, kindness, reassurance that their worth isn't tied to what they can recall, but to who they still are deep inside. But even when the mind remains sharp, there's one more change that often sneaks in quietly. A change that's physical, but often misunderstood. Let's talk about what happens when the body begins to reject even the most basic fuel food. Truth number 5. Shrinking appetite equals shrinking strength. Let me tell you about Laura. Laura used to love her. Thanksgiving dinner rich full of flavor. You'd see her and sing in the kitchen as the aroma filled the house, singing an old tune, lifting the lid to taste the sauce, like it was a sacred ritual. It was more than just food, it was memory, tradition, joy. But lately she just pushes her plate aside. She says it doesn't taste the same anymore. She nibbles on a few spoons, then folds her hands, and you can see it, the shrinking frame beneath her wrapper, the looseness in her cheeks, the energy fading. Now, here's what you need to understand after 80. Appetite doesn't disappear out of laziness. It's biology. The metabolism slows down. The body starts producing less saliva. Taste buds dull, and on top of that, many medications suppress hunger or cause nausea, dry mouth, or changes in taste. So food, once a delight, starts feeling like a chore, something to get through, not something to enjoy. And yet food at this stage is more important than ever, because every skipped meal chips away at their strength. Their immunity weakens, their muscles thin out, balance becomes shaky, bones more brittle, and sadly many families don't notice it until something serious happens, a fall, sudden weight loss, or a rush trip to the hospital, and we say, "But she was eating fine just a few weeks ago." But that change, it happens slowly, quietly, a few bites less each day. So what can we do first? Don't force pressure, rarely works. It only builds resistance. Instead, think quality over quantity. Offer smaller portions, but make them count: soft-boiled eggs, yogurt, avocado, mashed sweet potatoes, smoothies, snacks throughout the day instead of 3 heavy meals, and most importantly, make it social. Sometimes it's not that they don't want to eat, they just don't want to eat alone. Sit with them, share a meal. Let food become a moment of connection again, because when you feed someone with love, it nourishes more than their body. It touches their soul, and that strength, physical and emotional, is what keeps them going. These truths we've shared, they aren't easy, they're real. They're raw, but if we can understand them, we can respond with compassion instead of confusion. Let's now talk heart to heart, because this is where it all comes together. It's one of the hardest things in life, watching the very hands that once held you steady now tremble to hold a cup of tea, watching someone who once walked you to school, now needing help just to make it across the room. These changes, they don't come all at once. They come slowly, like pages turning in a book. You don't want to finish reading, and yet here we are, chapter after chapter, watching the people we love grow older in ways that feel more like a slow goodbye. It hurts not just because of what's fading, but because of what's still there, their stories, their laughter, their essence, and we wonder, how do we hold on to that? The truth is, you can't stop time, you can't stop aging, but what you can do is stop missing the signs. You can choose to look closer, to show up, to bring warmth into rooms where silence has settled. Because when you begin to understand these changes, not with fear, but with love, something shifts. You stop asking what's wrong with them, and you start asking, how can I help them feel like themselves again? That is what love looks like after 80. And if you've seen these signs, if someone you love has stopped going out, or lost their spark, or forgotten things that used to come easy, don't dismiss it, don't wait. Sometimes the smallest action, a warm bowl of soup, a 10-minute chat, a photo album brought out on a Sunday afternoon, can bring a person back to themselves, can remind them you still matter. And isn't that all any of us really want? So don't be afraid of these truths. Let them move you. Let them wake you up. Because knowing is not enough. Acting on that knowledge, that's where real care begins. That's where love grows. Aging doesn't have to be just about decline. It can be about dignity. It can be about connection. It can be about honoring a life fully lived. And the beauty is, you, Hawaii, have a role in that. You have the chance to make someone's final years softer, richer, more peaceful. Now let's take a moment to reflect and move forward together. Let's recap the 5 truths we've shared today. Number 1. Shrinking social circles. It's not just about loneliness, it's about losing a sense of community, of history, of belonging. Number 2, loss of purpose. When routines fade, so can their spirit. Number 3, changes in sleep. It's not just restlessness, it's a sign that something deeper may be shifting. Number 4, cognitive decline. Not every memory slip is harmless. And number 5, appetite loss, a quiet danger that chips away at strength. Little by little, if you notice any of these signs in someone you care about, please don't look the other way. They're not just signs of aging. They're signs that love and support are needed now more than ever. And I want to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these truths in someone close to you, or maybe even in yourself? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else find clarity, comfort, or courage to take the next step. And if this video touched you, if it opened your eyes or reminded you of something you've been ignoring, please give it a like and subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Insight. Because here we don't just talk about aging, we talk about understanding it, honoring it, and walking through it with grace. Thank you truly. Thank you for spending this time with me, for caring enough to learn, for choosing compassion. Stay strong, stay compassionate, and remember, growing old isn't the end. It's a continuation of legacy, and what we do with the time we have left, whether it's ours or someone else's, makes all the difference. Take care of those you love, and I'll see you in the next video.